Hi guys, welcome to what is going to be the last part, really the last part of this series of videos on the org codec. So the previous part we were discussing our little experiment trying to model the metadata in a model as a table instead of as properties in the org document. So if I just go back to where we were. So these are the two different approaches. This is the way we're currently doing things. We have properties go along with each element, or which line should I say, and then we basically well, it kind of works. There's nothing wrong with it, and this might end up being the final solution to the problem, to be honest. But the slight problem with it is that once you try to visualize this, well, there are two problems, I guess. First one is when you try to visualize it, it's the default visualization that one gets in GitHub and in the Ruby org parser is just all mangled up. And in addition to that, if we try to, one of the things we want to do is we want to generate PDFs from models, and it does not seem. Let's have a quick look at the PDF. So that's good. I mean, we're not entirely sure why that element comes through, but it's fine. But as you can see here, on the PDF generation, we haven't got anything to do with the configuration. So ideally, we wanted the comments to come through. We wanted a bit more stuff to come through, to be honest. I mean, we still have to do some configuration for the PDFs, but the idea should really be that once you take a model, and you should just generate the model, and then as a PDF, and it should document the model. So we decided to experiment with these tables. The first approach for the tables, as you can see here, wasn't particularly useful either. Well, actually, one thing we've forgotten to do here is... there we go, there's the next page. So the first... so let's just, to be fair, let's just make sure we move to the next page here. So as you can see here, that didn't really give us very much. There's only 2 pages, and so it's interesting actually that the contents look almost identical. The contents table looks almost identical to the actual internals of the document. And in the future, it will look a bit more like this if we go with this approach. So the table, which doesn't have a name yet, but the table is there, and you can see all the metadata that goes with that table. It seems, well, it captures more of the model. I mean, I think we still have to work. This is not ideal still, as you can see here, but well, at any rate, seems better than we currently have, because at least there's something coming through. Whereas with the current setup, there's nothing at all coming through, so it's definitely an improvement. I mean, I think what we have to bear in mind as well is that this is just the first stab at this. It's not going to be perfect, so there's no expectation here of perfection, really. However, we should, since we still have a few hours left in this sprint, we should at least do the due diligence and try to see what happens if we try to export these things and see if we can actually make this work as a table, which seems to be a little bit better. So anyway, without further ado then, we've done most of the work to convert to table. I mean, this is all very, very experimental. We're more interested in the looks rather than how the implementation works. But things are not quite working at the moment because the library is not being generated. Now, the reason why the library is not being generated, of course, is because the library still has properties. So it's not being parsed, should I say. So what we're trying to do at the moment is we're trying to use our new convert org to org targets to convert from the old models to the new models, the new representation with the table. And as we were doing that, it suddenly occurred to me, let's double check the recording is, yeah, it is on. It suddenly occurred to me that it probably makes sense to have targets for these guys, really. So probably should add the CMake file here. Similar to these, And if we try to remember how things used to be, so if I go back to here, and if we just go back in time a little bit, I mean, I think we just go straight to the previous release. Just the easiest thing to do. And in the previous release, if we just have a quick look at how modeling used to work. So we used to have a models directory, and then there was a list of models, I believe. Right, so we just so I think we need to do something similar to this. Something like this should do. So if I just create a C, make lists.txt, and we copy and paste a little bit. Should probably update these licenses and blurbs, but as we got at the moment. So so let's just say that we look for star.org and the models, and then for each model, now we don't particularly care about the extensions because you're converting from org to org. So let's just say, so the output there is whatever we are. The destination name, well, actually it's just the model name really. We're just converting from the current name to the current name. And then we don't need to do any regex replaces. Right, so there you are. So converting model name to org. There's the source, there's the destination. And that as the target. So if we were to something not quite right with our indentation at the moment. Right, something like this. And then we can, I'm just going to be a little bit, oh okay, we already have share. Ah, okay, excellent, so we already have share. So I should be able to just say, so what do we do in share, interestingly enough? Share Dogen, if, okay, we do some copying of the files in here. That's fine. Now we definitely don't need to worry about JSON validation, I don't think, given that none of the files in the library have got JSON in them. So we can just get rid of that. And then we could very simply here just do something like this. And that will be library, presumably. Okay, let's see what happens if I try to just do a CMake on this. Okay, nothing particularly special, that's good. And then if I, so what we want to do now is, as you can see here, we have a lot of stuff staged. We have to probably do everything in one go, so what we'll do is, let's just stage everything for now. And then if I say convert all org, this will convert org to org. And if we look at the library models, there they are. And then let's see how they look like. Okay, so that seems to have done something. However, okay, we didn't really want to do all models because we've already done some of the models, so let's just make sure we don't touch anything outside of the library here. So anything that says projects, no, I think something went very wrong here because we don't seem to have anything in the library. The models that we wanted to change did not change. However, I can definitely see conversions happening. Not quite sure where they went. Most peculiar. So why would this not work? So org to model, that's fine, we'll leave that stash. So these guys are okay, I think. As you can see, this is the previous conversion we've done. So these guys look fine. The problem is the library models. We definitely see the library models being converted. I think there's something wrong with the CMake target there. Let's have a look again. So we say look for org. So definitely this is definitely working. But what is this guy saying then? Interesting. We are saying get file name component. We don't really need an output directory, I don't think. The destination is whatever the model name is, the same thing as the source. I think the problem is we're doing this in the CMake binary dir. Right, okay, this is the problem. Okay, fine. So let's just make sure. We definitely need the output directory actually. So right, so let's think about this for a second. So we need to place in fact, to be honest, I feel very tempted to just basically say source is $model, destination is $model, to be honest. Can't see why that would be a problem. And now, hopefully, we see a lot of library modifications here. Okay, now again, we can't really do anything outside the library. This is a bit of a tricky thing to do, really, because these sort of changes can only be done once, because then the models become incompatible. So now let's have a look at what we got with this. So shared pointer element. There's a lot of movement here. But vaguely looks sensible. So what we'll do is we'll have a quick look at the model. Yeah, as you can see here, it looks vaguely sensible. POSIX time seems to have lost all of its properties. Okay, so we seem to have broken something here. Let's compare that with the head. Right, so what happened was we did not add the custom IDs to the modules, which then meant that we couldn't reassemble the topology correctly. Okay, fine, so this is a bug. Right, so what we need to do again, revert all these changes. We'll get there in the end. Now then, let's have a quick look at the boost model again. Let's just get rid of the head. Right, so the problem is that all the namespaces are not correctly identified, I guess you could say. And we need to make sure they have their IDs, because without the ID we can't reassemble the graph. It's not ideal at present, but the sort of the setup, but especially because we're not actually throwing if the user diagram does not have all these properties, which we should really. It's just so much validation we need to perform. But as you can see here, we've now added. Now just be very careful that we're not doing anything silly here. So this is the IO service, which is a class. That was here already. That's the IP, which is a class. No, actually the IP is a module, that's correct. TCP is a module, that's correct as well. And now we have a couple of classes, and they look alright. So okay, so that's good. Now we probably have the same problem in a few places. Start with file system. Okay, file system, path, then Gregorian, similarly. POSIX time. So pretty much all the modules. Property tree. Still a little bit experimental, but it's where we are at the moment. Okay, that kind of makes more sense. Okay, now then, let's have a quick look at who else could need some more IDs. I think many of these models don't really use modules. Aha, there's one. Specialized. Region. And these guys are all inside of specialized, so there's only one module here, done. And here there's no modules. Here there's a module, but that module has already been taken care of. As well. That as well. These are modules that probably came from Dia, which we fixed probably. Module, and variability, which has no modules. Okay, cool. Now, before anything else, what we need to do, this is a little bit boring, but so we need to make sure that we separate these changes. So, in fact, we could probably commit these guys as well. So let's just get rid of these guys for a second. Then let's say these two guys here. Something like add conversion targets for library models. And then let's just run the tests, make sure that nothing broke. So this is just going to test that the custom IDs didn't cause anything to go strange. It shouldn't really, because the custom IDs are mainly used within the codec model. So that's fine. So we could say something like add custom IDs to boost and C# models. Okay, so that was the remaining custom IDs we're missing, and now what we'd expect to see, not sure why this commit is taking so long, but there you are. Now we can resume to the work we're doing, and we can get the latest code generator. So now we're going to try the conversion again, and then we want to see that the topology is preserved, because if the topology, no, actually before we go anywhere, as soon as this is done, let's get rid of all the project changes. So ideally we want to see a diff that highlights the properties changing. So okay, already getting a little bit worried, because see this is the kind of diff we want to see, But this is not the kind of diff you want to see, so that implies that something else has changed here. Makes it harder to do comparison. So let's have a look. It's not clear to me why the header changed. I think it's mainly the indentation. Swiper doesn't seem to be able to search. It would be nice if you could see the indentation properly. So like for example in this cases here, they look nice. It's exactly what you'd want to see. And also that also makes us a bit more comfortable with the modules. However, as soon as you get into iOS service, we seem to have other kinds of changes. That doesn't look too bad. Seems just that the diff is a little bit confused, I think. Okay, let's call this acceptable, I think. Let's just have a quick inspection. Eyeball the model. Looks vaguely sensible. Yeah, roughly sensible, I think. As you can imagine, you probably would need some kind of caption for the tables, you know, table name, all sorts of things. But we will look into that later. I mean, we've already got some examples, I guess. Clock tables, they have captions. We could probably actually add that very quickly, because the caption is just another line to skip. So I'm just going to put a note here so I don't forget. Add caption. Oh, actually this is a very interesting point. We were saying that the custom ID should have remained as a property, which to be fair is quite a good point, because it is actually a low-level org property. That would make life much more complicated though, because at present we disabled properties altogether. Though I don't think it would be a massive thing to put it back. In fact, in this sort of scenario, we'd support both really. We'd support the tables or properties, but then of course then you have to check to make sure that things are not being added twice and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, this requires a little bit of thinking, but at any rate, okay. All we're trying to do at the moment is we're trying to just create a quick prototype to see how the documentation renders. So well, let's go with that for now. We just need to get this thing to pass all the tests. So what happens if we try to run all tests? Now we expect failures because of course not all models have been converted, so a lot of models will fail. Round tripping is failing as well, but what else is working? Did any test pass? I guess that's the question. So we have 153 failures. I think that's pretty close to the total. So I think everything failed. Oh no, 156, okay. So what passed? So in general, we seem to have failed to find the modules, so that means the metadata is not being processed correctly. And then when we try to round trip the models, we seem to have changed quite a lot. Okay, the round tripping I think is understandable because we disabled org to model. So I think that's fine, that's not a problem. However, we would expect some tests to pass. It's a bit worrying that no test passed. So let's have a look at this guy. Codec model set to logical input model set. Start the chain. I'm wondering, actually, I think perhaps what we're going to do is to support both, actually. The reason why I say this, I mean, this is not going to be particularly well designed, but the reason why I say this is because if we had support for both, we would not have problems, we would not have breakage with the existing models, they would just work. And still doesn't quite explain why it is this is not working, because some models should have worked. So let's just solve that, and then we're going to enable properties again, I think. And right, so if we just go to tests.cpp, let's just make sure we have one of these guys as debug, which we do. So according to this, one of the models, it's not very clear which one, is not giving us model modules. Now, this is a bit useless to logging because it's not telling us what model. So what we really need is to look at the codec model to logical model transform. Codec model set to logical input chain. So we need somebody here to tell us something about the file name that's being read. So let's try to see if any of these guys have any idea. So there's a model set here. So we must first read the target, and then from the target codec model to logical model. Okay, we already converting to the logical model here. So models have been read already, so that's a bit too late for this. Yeah, it's a bit of a problem. We can't actually figure out what model is being read incorrectly. As you can see, a few models here seem to be really being read correctly. And which is a bit of a worry because we have no way. So what we really need is we need provenance. That's what we need. We need a provenance to have a file name. So the codec ID, which already exists, I think. So where are we then? We already have a notion of provenance somewhere. I thought we did. Oh, actually, it's probably an identification thing, I think. So if we look for elements, taggable, stereotypable, nameable, configurable, determinable origin. There we go. So determinable origin. So this guy here, this provenance. Ideally, we would like this guy. So let's have a look at what the identification thinks the provenance means. Logical provenance. These models are not quite as easy to read as back in the dia days. But there you are. So, then we have a model ID, a model type, SHA, codec ID, and then location, which is a codec location. Codec location. So a codec location should somewhere around here. Actually, one thing we could probably do is you could probably go at codec location. Right, here we are. Right, so codec location contains a line and a column. What we really need is for the codec location to also contain a file name. So so that when we get to codec model to logical model transform, we could at least say, well, this is what I'm trying to transform. That is probably quite an easy thing to do. Kind of sort of sidetracking ourselves a little bit here. What are we doing for time? 31 minutes. But I can't think of an easy way to know what model is not being processed. Because we don't really have a way to know the model name until we process the model modules, because at present, so just to give you a bit of context, at present the model name is being read by this metadata property here called model modules, and that's so it allows us to have names in the model, on the file names, that are distinct from the final name. Otherwise we would end up with a case where certain model names would clash. So we need, it's a bit of a hack really, but that's how it is at the moment. And so that means that we don't really have a model name until we process the model modules. So if the metadata is not coming in, we will never have a model name. So we suddenly have an error where some model, anonymous model, is failing. So the way to solve that is to make sure that the codec provenance contains file coordinates. I think about this. We did some changes recently around here. Let's think about this. So codec model. Right, so this is orchestration, so we really need to be in the codec model. Right, and then around codec model there'll be a transform. So artifact to file transform. Now that obviously has no notion of a model, so we can't really populate the codec model just yet. This will just have artifacts and files. But there will be a caller for this, which will be something like file to file chain. Okay. Now this guy will read. This guy will read. But however, this is actually used in a model-to-model conversion, so we don't really want this guy. We want model generation, model production. There we are. So the model production chain will do something similar. So we'll read the file artifact into an artifact, file into an artifact. Sorry. Then it will convert the artifact to a model, and we do have the file name here. Bingo. So all we need to do is, in this chain, we are running a number of codec related chains. These guys will probably update the provenance, I think. So if we choose something like the org artifact, see what happens with the provenance. So not a lot really. So provenance, we are only worried about the codec ID, the provenance. We also do the custom ID. Okay, so that's good. Oh wait, sorry, the custom ID is the codec ID. Sorry, being a bit silly here. Okay, so that's fine. We just read the bits that we're interested in, but it doesn't. We don't really populate anything else in the provenance. The other thing as well is we are not taking into account line numbers. So I think we probably don't need to worry about the column where things are defined. I don't particularly care about that, but a line number will be useful. And in order for that to work, we would have to have the coordinates coming from the org model. We don't really have a file name anymore, so that would have to be supplied from the outside world. Although we do have an artifact here, so we could probably just create the codec. Yeah, okay, so that's easy enough. I think we could just supply that here, and then we could just get the parser, the org parser, to have in the headline. So if we look at the org model, we just need the org model. Sadly, I don't think I can move it to this monitor, but we just need the org model to have in headlines, because we don't really care about headlines really. We just need a line number on the headline, because that's where attributes and elements and pretty much everything comes from. So we don't really care about anything else. So with those 2 bits of information, I think we could probably populate the provenance, which would then allow us to throw the error against the provenance, and then we'd know what model is failing, I think. Okay, so in order to do that, we so let's just stop ourselves here for a second. So adds provenance details. Add missing provenance details codec models. So at present we are not populating file name, line number. I think that's it really for codec elements. This makes logging harder, especially prior to reading the model name from metadata. We should be able to populate these properties for almost all codecs. Not possible in dia. This will require a lot of hackery, so we don't really care about dia, so we'll just leave that for the moment. We should at least add support for org and perhaps JSON. Okay, cool. So this will be a story to us first to work on. We will just quickly implement this so we can go back to the error that we're actually debugging. Now then, so we're probably not sure what's going on here. Make it process integration. So what we need to do then is we need to move all these guys over to another stash, except for this guy. So this is the table support work, and we will just these 2 stashes here for the moment. And let's just get back to a working code generator, shall we? Because we've done a lot of breakage. It would be nice if you could do this in a common waitlist commentable codecs, but I'm afraid we can't, so it'll be another quick hack. Right, so the file name, to be fair, the file name could possibly be populated across all codecs. And what property was that again? The codec model. Oh yeah, we're missing it. So a codec location. Although to be fair, there's all this notion of a model ID, model type. What exactly is a model type, one wonders? Also thought we were populating the SHA one. So perhaps there is a transform that's doing some of this. Let's have a quick look. So what transforms have we got? Excuse me. It's an annoying cough, doesn't seem to want to go away. So the transforms we have at the codec model at present, can't show all of them. So model production chain, input technical space, provenance transform. Okay, there is a provenance transform in the codec model. Now, the provenance transform, just for our... So there's the provenance transform. It probably is computing the SHA-1 key. Okay, here we are. So that's computing the SHA-1 key. The model type is set to not yet determined. Though to be fair, we probably know who's the target and who isn't the target really, so clear why that's the case. Let's just have a look at where this is happening. So it's happening around here somewhere. Yeah, we do have a path as well, so there's nothing stopping us from populating the path. Not sure if we should call this a model ID though. It seems a little bit misleading, because I mean, what do we mean by model ID? If we called it file name, it would not be so misleading, I think. Which would take us back to identification, and then we could just update. Yeah, if we just remove this, and if we supplied the model type, although having said that, I don't think I've seen model types around here. Where are the model types? There we are. So, model types. Yeah, there's a transform somewhere in the logical model that updates this, so it's not brilliant really the way we've done it, but probably best not to touch it just yet. Codec ID, we know what it is. It's being read from somewhere else, and the location is what we're talking about at the moment. So I think, okay, so just to conclude, we should rename model ID to file name. We should probably drop a column, which then implies that we probably don't really need a whole type for a codec location really. We could just have a line number, or we could say that a codec location is a file name plus a line number. I should think. And perhaps we should make it a complete file path. The model ID is probably going to be basically the model name, so we could just get rid of it altogether, I think. Unless somebody else is using it somewhere. Let's have a quick grep. Oop, not quite what I meant to do. Right, so what we meant to do was to say, please tell me who's using model ID in all my projects. Now, this could be a lot of noise, but we don't particularly care about the provenance. Yeah, it doesn't seem like there's a lot of people using this model ID. So let's just try to see what happens if we change. Well, actually, I'm going to delete the model ID for good measure, and I'm going to add the file name to the codec location. So we'll start with that. Of course, now the problem is we're going to start changing the models. We've already updated the models in the other stash. I think it'll be okay. We just need to redo all the org models, and I think it'll be fine because I think the current state of the stash would support that. So that's not a problem. Let's go up to the models then. Right, so the first thing we'll do is go to the codec model and let's just locate this entity of ours. Codec. Oh, actually, sorry, my mistake. What I really meant to say was identification. And here we want to, well, we have two things to worry about. First, let's just see what happens if I drop model ID altogether. And second, in the codec location, I'd like to replace column. So let's just oops. Right, make sure that all that happened was swapping on the order of these two things. Right, so what we'd like to do instead is, instead of a column, I'd like to say file name. And I'd like this guy to become a boost file system path. Full path to the file that's read, if any, just in case we're reading this from a database, for example. And now the codec location within have, I think while we're here, we'll just use our new IDs based on UID. So every time we touch a type, we might as well. I think at some point we probably should just go around and update all these guys on their die IDs, but while we're here. Right, so let's just go back to our code generator, generate this, see what we get. So, as expected, it all looks good. More. Okay, so now what we want to see is what's the fallout of this change. We expect some changes, some breakage, but mainly in tests. In fact, even in tests, may actually just work altogether. I probably mentioned this before, but while we're waiting, we do have an IRC channel for Dogen. I mean, it's very quiet. Normally I just use it to see the builds coming through, but it is open. I think I got disconnected there. Yep, here we go. It is open, and if anyone wants to get in touch, you can always use the channel. The other thing as well, this might be worth talking about, is that this release kind of marks the end of the features that I needed for the thesis. So the next 3 months or so will be mainly about writing. I mean, I think I will probably do a few bits of coding, but they'll be very, very minor because the focus will be on the write-up, and the write-up will involve describing all this stuff. So there's going to be quite a lot of stuff to write about. So that's why I was quite keen on this release to try to get close as possible sort of to the interfaces and the architecture, because that's what we're going to be talking about in the papers. If I go back to the models, the reason why we're spending so much time trying to find the right shape for the models, even though, like I said, this is not really the final shape of the models, it's just basically for V1, I guess, is it sensible enough? It's just so that when we do the write-up, that we talk about, you know, the reasons why for the approach and why we chose that approach, and it would be nice to justify it in terms of the conversions that we have and so forth. So that's all going to be happening in the next few months. So up to now, if you noticed, we probably had quite a good cadence of releases, once every 6 weeks, 4 to 6 weeks really. And the next few months are going to be very different really. We probably will, I'm not sure if we're going to release at all, to be honest. It will depend on how it goes, but I will separate the timing for the thesis from the timing from the work, and we probably will be like making one release in 3 months maybe, which will have the all the contents of the changes required for the write-up. So that will be the next few months. We didn't quite get to the bottom of all the things we wanted to. If you look at the roadmap, we still had, so this is the current release, we still had work on the physical model, PDM generation, product generation, but what we'll do is we will do those things after the write-up. The reason being that, as everyone that does a PhD will tell you, it's important to actually just get writing. You can't get code to be perfect, so one has to somehow do a bit of the writing whilst not prioritizing the coding too much. It's much more interesting to do coding than is writing, so as you can imagine, that's what people tend to do. Okay, so what we're going to say now is we're going to say something like identification, refactor, a codec provenance. So generate, generate improved codec provenance, something like this. Right, so the idea now is that we now have the file name in the codec provenance. I mean, to be honest, it might be time to go for one of the usual convert all to platform YAML, generate all platform YAML, because we keep making changes to the models. The latest in our window, the browser window. Okay, and I'll just models regenerate latest YAML. Right, so now, as you can see here, the codec location has been updated. Wait, still finding it a little bit difficult to move around these new PlentyML models. I mean, one of the things we're not going to have enough time for, sadly, is to do the work required to get all the relationships in and so on. We're just running out of time for that, really. Probably be something we'll do after the write-up, I think. Right, so now we've got the types, we just need to populate it. And I think since this guy has already got the path and we're using that to calculate the SHA-1 key, seems to me we should just say right, we compute the hash, then we update the provenance. This is not a very good idea. This is really not a very good idea at all. We already have things in the provenance, so we don't want that to be the case. So let's just clean that up as well, and let's just say model provenance dot codec location. file name. I mean, actually, now that I think about it, file name is not exactly the best of names. We should probably say file path, really. Sorry. After all that, few problems immediately. Sorry, this is the problem of thinking and talking and doing everything at the same time. This is actually not a file name. It will contain everything, including the path. So, what's going on with Emacs? Set. So what we're trying to do is to say that in the identification, the codec provenance, the location, codec location, where we set file name, after all that work, what we really meant was full path, perhaps. So let's just do this all over again. And actually this time round I'm just going to do my plant UML changes as well, all in one go, so we don't have too many commits here. So a few seconds while it generates plant UML. And yeah, I mean, we do try. I know the names here may appear a bit random, but we do try our best to give names that are vaguely sensible. Identification, rename file name to full path. Full path, not the best names either, but you know. And now, of course, you're gonna have to wait for another massive build. What we're doing here at the moment is we're overwriting the codec properties here with the model properties. So the element properties, the model properties, that's not what we want. In addition, attributes probably also have properties. Provenance. Have a look. So attributes are also a kind of a meta element. Yeah, they are. So they're provenance, so that's not being populated. So lots of bugs with this transform. Yeah, it's the nature of software development, I think, that you have these aspirations and ambitions, but never quite fulfill them exactly the way you want. But as you can see here, I mean, we did a lot of stuff. It's just that we never quite expected things to take as long as they take. That's just the nature of software development, I think. There's been so many difficulties, particularly in the conceptual model. If you look at sort of the last few releases, we have spent a lot of time just dealing with very, very complex meta issues, and that has taken a lot of time. And unfortunately for a PhD, we only have so much time to do the PhD. You can't have a PhD last on forever. So at some point you have to just get on with it. So we put most of the stuff that we wanted in, but sadly we ran out of time for some of the features we wanted. And but at the same time, I mean, it's also good to have things that are time boxed, because you know you can code forever. So I think it's a good thing that you have dates and deadlines and so on, because I think the part of the development process really is to get to an end, and that focuses the mind a little bit. So it's good to have an open-end exercise because it's fun, but it's also good to have deadlines so that you can you just focus your efforts a bit. So I think that's also a good thing. Right, so that should work. Make sure we have latest code generator. Okay. Right, now then, So we did commit, we have committed, so right. So what we're going to do now is going to fix this transform, this very dodgy transform. Right, so this is right. What's not so right is the codec, now the location, full path is going to be P, and the line number perhaps, mp dot location dot the line will be 0, I guess, or 1, first line of the file, because that's where that's defined. Now we want to to be honest, let's not touch the line here, because the line should really be codec specific, which then makes touch the path here as well. We'll leave the path, not brilliant, but and then in the elements what we're going to do is we're going to fix this. We're just going to basically say, so e.provenance dot, so really slow at the moment, Emacs. We haven't even been running it for that long, to be honest, so not sure why it's slowing down so much. So what we're going to do here is just we're going to go through the different aspects of provenance that we already computed. So and copy them across. So anything that's already been populated by the codec, we're not going to overwrite that. So the model type will be whatever and the location full path similarly. Provenance. Okay. Bit of noise coming from downstairs. Okay, the noise is gone now. So what we'll do is we will just shortcut things a little bit. And then we need auto by reference attr on e dot attributes, and these guys here will have similarly a few things being populated. So auto by reference attributes provenance attr not provenance. Okay. So this is a slightly more accurate way of populating the provenance, and we will ensure this doesn't break anything. Right, so now the provenance is computed. And interestingly enough, we've already got a couple of transforms now we need to execute even when we're converting model to model. So some work is required here, but okay, no breaks. So now let's just say codec improve fix population of provenance, or improvements perhaps, properties, provenance really. Okay, so we did a few improvements there, but this is not quite the rest, the end of the work. Now go back to models. We take our org model. In our org model, we need to remember in the headlines the entities. We got in entities the headlines. So a headline So something like line number, perhaps. And that's an attribute as well. It would be nice to have some kind of org shortcuts for this, but we don't. We don't have one, so okay, let's just right, so this will be something like line number in file where this headline was read. Number of the line. In the file which contained this headline. Something like this, okay? So the line number is the number of the line in the file. Number of the line in the file which contains this headline. Right, so now then we will generate this guy. We must have done something wrong. Oh yes, we did something very wrong. Good, Dogen just basically told us we've done something wrong, as you can see here. Let's go back to the model. What we've done very wrong was we forgot to give it a type. I think an unsigned unsigned long, perhaps? No, unsigned int. There we go. Now then, that will work. And there's the headline. And now for good measure we will continue to do our generate all the representations sort of approach. Just so that everything keeps more or less in sync. So whilst that's doing this thing, well, it's not too slow to be honest, it's almost done, so. Right, there we are. So let's just do a quick run all tests, that shouldn't cause any problems. And then if we just say generate line number property in headline. Right, so I don't expect this to break, hopefully. It's our org model. As you can see, well, you can't see because it's in a different monitor, but the headline now has a line number property as you'd expect. Interesting. Custom ID. Okay, we seem to have broken round tripping, interestingly enough. I'm not sure why. The custom ID is not being round tripped. Okay, this is probably a bug, I think. I think the problem is we probably don't have custom ID. We don't have properties with I think the problem is we don't have support for properties with IDs. So add custom IDs to properties, or to attributes, or mods. Oh, not quite what I meant to do at all. My shortcuts seem to be really struggling at the moment. I think it's because of the... Yeah, okay, so something is really strange with org mod at the moment. Let's just try to see if we can reset this window somehow. Okay, something happened to my frame. Not quite sure what. Okay, I've got the time, so let's just keep going. Do a bit of manual work for a change. So, at present we do not seem to be reading the custom maybe properties in attributes. This means that if we add them to a model, round tripping will fail. We should read them. Right, so we'll look at that in a minute. Meanwhile, we will go back to our model and do the needful, which is to get rid of that guy. Now, as you can see here, these properties do not have an ID, so that's why. We were just being a little bit too diligent there, so diligent. Let's try again to run all tests. The Dogen doesn't really necessarily need the custom ID, but org can have it, so we only use custom IDs to recreate the topology of a model, so that only requires elements and so on. Okay, that was fine. Now, in the org model, org mode, org artifact to model. Well, actually, to be honest, this is probably something a bit more low level. In the org model, there will be a transform around here somewhere. Document to string, string to document perhaps. So all we need is, oh, this transform doesn't do anything. Probably should have, I think the reason why we ended up going to the document factory was because we wanted to do some testing. This made life easier with the tests. Okay, so they probably have some notion of a parser, I think. A builder, there we go. So the builder is going to be doing all the hard work, so perhaps if the builder is receiving the lines, nothing stops us from having a unsigned int line number, which we will increment accordingly. Rather slow Emacs, might be due for a restart, sadly. I don't even think that we've been using this Emacs for that long. 3 days, that's pretty not that long for the sort of sessions we tend to have. So line number starts at 0 perhaps, and every time you add a line we will so if we should say something like processing line number contents, and then okay, and what we would do is we will just I swear this Emacs of mine today is really acting very strange. We will just pre-increment the line. Right, and now, well, we have this notion of handling a headline. Try parse headline, and the headline coming from the parser is const. I will probably... So now we have two options here. We either make the headline non-const. What exactly does handle headline do? Right, I think I am going to change the parser. So what would you say to the parser? Please add the line number to the headline if you did find one. So when you try to parse the headline, we will do something such as const unsigned int line number. This will cause a bit of breakage, but hopefully not too much. There's an int. Right, so so if we did manage to parse ahead, create a headline, we would do all sorts of faffing around here. We will just, oh okay, we already have a return R. Where is R? Stuff to, oh yeah, headline. So R dot line number. Right, so now all the tests for this try parse headline will fail. So we'll just give it a quick. We don't have any parser tests. Good, excellent. Sometimes it's good not to have too many tests. Make life a little bit easier. Okay, now this is going to break still. Because we forgot to add not quite that guy. That guy. So in theory, the line number will be added. So as you can see, I mean, this in a way this is a good thing we're recording this, because I think it's a great example of how things work around here. You start off with one problem. It seems very, very straightforward. Before you know it, you're changing all sorts of other stuff. Well, anyway, so there we are. So org add line numbers to headlines when parsing. Now we add the dots, join the dots together, go back to the org artifact model, and as we are processing a headline, we already have some kind of provenance somewhere. Right, so the headline is coming in. We could just basically say p dot location dot line becomes h dot line number. So just make sure we do that for all the provenances. All of them will have an associated headline, hopefully, except for the model itself, which is line 1, perhaps 0, line 1, I don't know, beginning of the file, I guess. I think that's it, and hopefully it's not going to break anything. So Codec adds line numbers. One thing we did not do, I don't think. So let's just cancel this for a second. I don't think we have provenance for attributes. Let's have a look. Oh, we do have provenance for attributes, which means we should have been reading the Codec ID. I'm not sure why that failed a second ago, but I'm not going to get distracted with that. So add line number to provenance. Okay. So now our provenance is populated in a slightly more sensible fashion. Now we can go back one level and then say whatever that transform was. Let's go to our log again. So a codec model to logical model transform. Now this guy should be a little bit more sensible now. Codec model to logical model transform. This guy. We expect this guy now to give us a bit more information. So we have a model name.simple, which is not being populated just yet. So let's just say model provenance. And we could say something such as r dot m dot provenance and location dot full path dot file name dot generic string. So we could, and to be fair, I think it makes more sense to use this thing here as our ID, because at this point in time there is no other ID. So I'm just gonna const auto by reference. I can't type. Const auto by reference location, and then here we will just say please use this as the ID, and here we will say, well, this is my ID. Don't bother with the model name, because the model name is populated via the transforms and probably not going to get that. So I'll just add this to the login for good measure. I think we don't need this second bit, but right. So now what we're going to do is we are going to try to generate a log for a test. We just have to make sure we undo this in a second, but so Dogen product tests. Right, so as you remember, in our stash we have a debug change here, and we will do this change as well. Just have to make sure we undo it before we commit, because otherwise the stash will not apply. And then we'll run all tests, and then we just need to look for this particular line. And I want to make sure that when we find that line, that it looks a bit more sensible. Yeah, as you can see here now, the Dogen ID is much more sensible. Although having said that, I thought by putting that in the ID in the transform, we wouldn't have to log it manually, but start to transform, codec model to logical model transform. I don't know why it doesn't give us information about the thing it's transforming. Bit annoying, really. I mean, what is the point of having an ID there if it's not being logged? Let's have a look at what this guy is doing. Ah, but there's two things. There's transform ID and the model ID. Right, I'm going to change this slightly because it seems a bit pointless not to know. Yeah, so it's very interesting that we do it at the end, no, not at the beginning. Now, if there's an ID, we should just log. So we will just do this. Don't know why we didn't do this before. I'm sure there's a very good reason for it, but I shall try to log it. Now, I don't think there's a model ID here. So let's not log the model ID if there isn't one. There is one over there. Sadly, Emacs is really grinding to a halt, and we also are running out of time. About an hour and a half into it. Right, so what we'll do now is we will... It'd be nice to actually get to the bottom of this, but I think we can't complete our actual task. Now, let's just see if we made the same mistake for chains. There's the model ID here, there's the model ID there. I have no idea why we're not logging the model ID. We are in some cases, just not all. Perhaps an omission. Right, in all cases where there is a model ID, we should log it, okay? And that now means that we should be able to get rid of this model ID here. Let's run all tests again. Right, so now, hopefully, I mean, it seems we're trying to do something so simple. We're trying to understand why it is that our table is not being processed, but we couldn't figure out where it was not being processed. And in order to do that, we needed to fix a lot of fundamental problems with provenance. And this is a typical sort of way things go around here. On the plus side, in the future now, we can, when there's errors, we could throw the error, and the element, the place where the element was defined, should be available. So you should be able to know exactly which file and which line that element was defined. So we should, at some point in the near future, start to be able to have GCC-like errors that will come up in the compilation buffer. And will point to the org model, which would be pretty cool, because then we would be able to just click on the error and then go straight to the model. And I think at that point we should be able to start to consider integrating with fly check, because if we had a ---- dry mode that just returns an error, perhaps that would mean that as you are editing the model, fly check would just run and would just return you the errors of that model. I wonder how hard that would be. It might not be that complicated. Sadly, this is not something that we're going to try to do before the thesis, but seems fairly straightforward. Right, so a bit of a long compilation because we touched the tracer. We are really struggling with Emacs at the moment. See if I can kill Emacs. No. Not quite sure Emacs got itself into this state. Okay. This managed to get itself out of the state. Right, so now then, what are we trying to do then? We're trying to... Oh, actually we were trying to look at that log file and see if it looks any more sensible than before. Okay, so as you can see here, that looks more sensible. So we will... didn't really want to go there. Let's just make sure we undo these tests. Right, so 2 commits here. Tracing, dump the model ID when available to the tracer. And here, orchestration, compute model ID based on codec provenance rather than name. Use I'm gonna go for compute even though it's a bit long, but okay, something like this. Compute model ID from Codec provenance instead of name, something like this, right? That's what we did there. Now, if we unwind all of this stuff and go back to where we were, I suspect our patches are going to fail to apply quite badly, because conflicts on the models, not to worry. So what we'll do is we will take these guys as is, unstage the whole lot, and then, not that, but unstage, that's it, and then we will take all of these guys. So let's just, well, let's separate the code from the models. Oops, one just escaped in there. So what we want is to make sure that all of our models are here. In fact, to be honest, sometimes one is not too clever. So let's just do the opposite. Let's just get all the models. Well, it's important that we got only the models. Good. Let's just call this something. Now all the models are here, stashed. And we got the table support stuff in here, and then all we need to do is to say convert all org. This is going to reconvert all the models. Okay, that is unexpected. Okay, I know why. It's because we forgot to and it's interesting that we see differences there, but there you go. Forgot to build the code generator. It is a bit worrying that we had differences there actually, but let's not worry about that for now. Okay, now these are the models after conversion. And now we will run the tests again and go back to our error. Right, my windows are very, very messed up now. I don't even know. I think I might have to restart, kill this frame and start it again, because I think now it's just very confused. Doesn't seem to know where it is. So if I just do a window undo, okay. Can I move to any other window? No. I wonder if I can. Oh. So I'm just gonna. Oh, actually, now we're done with this story as well. Let's just reclock. Okay, so we reached the end of our sprint, and we will finish this task. But we also need to know what's going on there. Okay, cool. Now I'm just gonna close this guy. Close this guy. If I go back to Agile, still moaning at something. Emacs is very unhappy at the moment. Rather unhappy. I'm not too sure what's going on here, to be honest. It seems as if this window I can't kill the window. Ah, killing seems to work. Can't get rid of Emacs. Yeah, Emacs just got itself into some kind of a weird state, and whilst this does not happen very often, it is quite annoying when it does, because we are quite used to having everything open and set up. So anyway, I mean, we have to fight against everything around here. What we'll do is we will just oops, what am I doing? Oh yeah, it's fine. Let's look for that log file. Not quite what I was looking for. So .log. Okay, here we are. And if we, oh, nothing seems to work. Tests. Dogen org product test maybe. Yeah, there you go. And then we enable debug here. Let's just look for that error message in case there is some way of getting yourself out of this. Okay. There's no easy way to reset though. Sadly, seems like some kind of Tremax issue, but yeah, I think the easiest thing to do here will probably just be to reset Emacs. I think not ideal, but let's just finish. Right, let's make sure that our log file is being regenerated. Yeah, sadly, I think we are in such a state at the moment with Emacs that we can't get tired. Ah, okay, right, I know what the problem is here. Okay, fine. So let's just calm down for a second. Build output, clang, release, stage. Right, so what we want to do is we want to look at the log file for the orchestration tests, Dogen product org. Okay, right, so this guy here. Okay, that's the guy we're looking for. So hopefully, if Emacs is allowing us to continue. I have no idea how I've done this, but I think I must have killed Emacs or something. Okay, here we are. So okay, that's very interesting. So the model that we're having problems with that is interesting. What's going on here? So codec model set to logical model set chain. Okay, started chain. Right, so that's probably because Dogen is the target, I think. So code yeah, okay, right. So we only have one. So presumably this test, and this Emacs is severely handicapping us at the moment. But the tests that we are doing at the moment is for the Dogen org model. Okay, so it seems to be complaining about the metadata in the Dogen org model. That we assume to be correct. Not sure what that is. We'll have to deal with that in a second. So let's just have a look. We should see model modules around here. Here we are. So we are processing the Dogen model. It's a bit weird that we have this inconsistency where we think we're processing one model and then we think we're processing another. So Codec transforms model set production chain. Finish Codec model set production chain. Started the chain. So now we're starting it for Dogen model. Then we go to Dogen org. Presumably it's because we're looping through all the models and the first one is target. But then the question is, why is it that we think this guy thinks that the chain is named after that model instead of the target? Now that would be not ideal. So what does it use? Yeah, exactly. So it's named after the target. Oh, after the simple name of the target. Again, I don't like this. Let's instead use exactly the same logic. Everything to do with the codec model, because we don't really know what's happened to the codec model yet. It's not a good idea to use that. So let's just use the provenance. Peraí, Zach, a minute. Usual chaos going on around here. So yes, as I was saying before, let's make sure that we started recording. We did. Right, so what we've done here, I mean, we are really in a constrained environment at present, but so this transform here is going to be calling the individual transform, and that transform there is going to have the new code that we just added. And so what we'll do is copy and paste quite literally, and we'll say actually don't bother with that, let's just use the ID. The reason why is because I don't really trust. Oh, but one thing we did do, the model set. Ah, very interesting. We need to understand how a model set comes to be. I think that the provenance of the model set, I mean, it's what is a provenance of a model set? Don't think a model set even has provenance. Yeah, it doesn't. Okay. But the model set appears to have a name. In fact, let's just go back to what things were around here a second ago. What did we say? Yes, we were taking the target. Okay, fine. So, now let's just do this slightly differently. Let's say ms.target.provenance, because the model set is named after the target, which makes sense, right? We have a set of models, but those set of models only exist due to the fact that we're trying to process the target. Now then, let's run all tests yet again. I mean, this Emacs is definitely due for a restart. You can see everything is going to be crazy. I have no idea what's going on here, but right, finally. So now, what does the logging say? Now the logging is consistent. The problem is with Dogen.org, we don't seem to have the properties for Dogen.org. So, model modules. Now we find that a bit strange because you can clearly see the table is being processed here. And model modules are just here, right? So that does not seem like a problem. So let's just have a quick look at what's going on here. What did we do? Actually, one slight problem. Now it's very, very confusing. Not quite the backlog. Okay, I think I'm gonna have to stop this video because Emacs is in such a state. It's making it really difficult to do any work. But the gist of it at the moment is this. I'm going to have to restart Emacs and get back into this. But the problem we have at the moment is that we are reading the table, but we seem to not be parsing all the elements of the table, which is a bit strange. So because we're not parsing all the elements of the table, we're not able to get the model modules. I think it's probably just a tiny bug, but it just requires a little bit of concentration to look at it. And once we got that, I suspect, it probably will allow us to go through. We must have done something with the stashes and unstashes. We probably are not quite running from all the code base or something like that. So anyway, the point. Let's just do a quick recap then. So the purpose of this video was to yet again to demonstrate how things work when we're using the org models. I think in that sense we kind of achieved that. you could see how we added properties, how we made changes to the model, and how we, in general, how the modeling works using the codec model, the OR codec. What we wanted to show really was we wanted to show you what happens when we move from one way of doing things to another way of doing things. The new way being storing properties in these tables. But actually, and we've done most of the work for this, but it seems like somewhere we're not reading the table properly. And so that's why we can't really get to the bottom of that. So it probably just requires a bit of offline concentration to get that out of the way. Okay, that's all for this video. Thanks very much for watching.